Heyo, Lord Rattenborg here, back to tell you more about Faplord Gaming. And we all know how exciting that is, so let's get to it. First of all, here's a little disclaimer. I'm obviously biased, it's my memories, how I remember it, so it's perhaps not exactly how it happened, etc. I mean, you get it, so moving on. For the characterization of my members, I don't want to get too deep into personal traits, etc., but I do want to give a general overview with a mainly in-game perspective, sort of. Alright, starting from the top left of the picture, we have George, our beloved top laner. Most known for his stability and Maokai prowess, Jorge has always been a force to be reckoned with in the top lane. Throughout the years we've seen many plays from this young Faplord, such as multiple pentakills, innovative Garen spin twerks, and the also famous yes I've TP up with about 60 seconds to go on the teleport cooldown. George has always been, with the exception of when he meets an opposing Riven, able to fend for himself and create leads without much jungle pressure. Also being our personal in-group meme lord, with what would seem like an PhD in memes, he has introduced a lot of memorable in-group memes such as the Do You Even Realize and the Maokai. He is, as a top laner, very comparable to the all too famous TSM top laner Dyrus. Although his prime is clearly over, he still manages to stay somewhat relevant through memes and, well yeah, dreams. And despite his recent absence from the competitive scene, he still logs on to League once in a while to supply us with dank memes and top lane shenanigans. George has always been a ton of fun playing with, and all we can hope is that he starts playing some more. In general, George has been one of the center pillars of the organization that is Faplord Gaming. He's been a trusty duo partner with around 300 games with me last season, and nothing short of a great top laner. Moving on to the K-pop enthusiast, blunt summer, and strategist of the group, I introduce to you Falco, also known as whatever unpronounceable summoner name you see on your screen. A wild Falco is usually found in a dark room, chilling with a blunt and some garlic bread. Although that might not seem like the brightest member of any community, Falco's intake of the good stuff somehow makes him exactly that. Falco, even when he hasn't played for half a season or more, always manages to have a deeper understanding of the game and of garlic bread than any of us could ever strive to achieve. It is to this day still a mystery why he has never been able to escape the grasp of silver, when such individuals as myself and even the legendary Ron fly miles above that either. It may stem from his regular absence from League, or maybe even his teammates, but he is indeed a silver citizen. Falco, as the only Faplord to have ever gone through a formal tryout, is not only a very wise player, but also an absolute blast in the chat rooms. He never shies away from outrageous comments, leaving members laughing uncontrollably, or with an urge to clench their butthole, or maybe with severe burns. One thing's for sure though, Faplord Gaming would have never been as fun, nor controversial, without the dank master himself, Falco. As for our next member, it's me. I'm the next member. Shit. It's always difficult to characterize oneself for obvious reasons. So what I'm going to do instead is read a comment left on an old thread, on an old Facebook post actually, by a fellow Faplord that maybe does glorify me a bit, but at least it is my words. So I quote, "Why not mention yourself, the great band Faplord, who basically founded our team and kept it running for about 3 seasons. You are always improving, you always have a plan and a smile and a positive attitude and a kind heart that makes us feel like we're winning even in defeat. You are the sole core, our carry, and most importantly our captain, Rattenborg." First and foremost, I have to thank Pasha for writing these awesome words, and secondly, I do want to touch on my role a little bit. Faplord Gaming, or formerly known as TSKG, has always been a thing in progress. Obviously, I have been a central part of this whole project, but I could never have done it myself. I've always been in the middle of the games and therefore in the middle of the action. I've tried my best to be a good captain, mostly by being a good shot caller. And that is my role in the team. I'm the shot caller, the captain, the leader, whatever you might call it. I've been one of the people to, hit people up, to create doodles, arrange the grind that led us to our achievements back in the day. And I've always been happy to do so. Moving on from myself to the next person on the list, and the same guy who I just quoted, our very own Pasha, aka Little Bird. Pasha holds a special place in the community, being the nice guy. Also, he's one of the OG, making him almost central to the organization. He has always been around and willing to play often. Though he isn't one of the highest ranked players, he's always been one to understand a part of the game that I frankly had a hard time with, that being self-sacrifice for the greater good of the team. Obviously, that character trait does apply more to a support player than that of a mid player, but still Pasha has been great at carrying the team without having to amass kills in an almost kleptomaniac looking fashion like I did. Outside of his great supporting skills and otherwise fabulous gameplay, Pasha is a nice guy, a kind-hearted soul, the gentleman, the feels. Generally, Pasha is always a blast to play with, being funny, self-ironic, and practically impossible to tilt. If you don't put him on Braum, that is. Braum was at one point what Riven was to George and Gragas was to Ron, apparently impossible to play against and or with. The first time we saw Pasha's Braum in action, he almost went through an entire game without landing his Q even once. We still won regardless, and he played well, but oh boy was that fun. But in conclusion, not to flame his Braum too much, Pasha is a center pillar in Faplord Gaming, and he is one of the most adorable and kind-hearted persons, or people rather, that I and all we know. Before I get any more cheesy with Pasha's characterization, I'll be moving the spotlight on to our next Faplord, that Faplord being an Allsanger, otherwise known as Dominic. Dominic is a hard man to pin down. His absence from League is higher than that one emo kid's absence from school, meaning that people are not really sure if he's even supposed to be there or what's going on, and you're genuinely surprised every time he shows up. Despite the fact that Dominic apparently has a life nowadays, it didn't always used to be like that. Dominic used to be an awesome AD carry and the dominating part of our bot lane duo. He was a true strategist, rivaling such dank minds as Falco's. His Draven was unstoppable and his memes were on point. Outside the game, he was always a part of the conversation, one of the reasons being a certain, let's call it alternative job, that kept the conversations going for quite a while. I've always loved chatting with Dominic. I know we all did, and that's why his absence is so tragic. Like Falco, Dominic generally doesn't shy away from sick burns and butt jokes, which is always appreciated, of course. Generally, if you are so lucky to be entering a chat with the both of them, you'd better lube up before going in there, because not only do they like to go 2v1, they also enjoy a nice combo followed by what will seem like a Mortal Kombat finisher involving your mom and her rectum. To sum Dominic up in a sentence, a great fucking time if proper lubrication is applied beforehand. For the next Faplord on our list, we have Legendary Scroat. And as I stated in the last video, he really haven't played all that many games with us, but That doesn't stop me from including one of my favorite duo partners in a video about Faplords. So who is JC, otherwise known as Legendary Scroat, to Faplord Gaming? He could be considered a sub, I suppose, but that isn't entirely accurate. A sub would normally be a subpar player that is second choice for a role in a team, and that really isn't what's happening here. JC is a great player that sure does like to underestimate himself, but almost always does great. Back when we first picked him up, he was a Renekton/Annie main, so calling him cheesy might not be too far off. But regardless of his cheesy picks, he would always be humble about his position in game. See, normally when people pick into the champions that live on the corner of Cheese Avenue and Ham Street, you'd want early game attention to snowball out of control, but JC isn't that guy. He's somewhat like George in that way. If that stems from his confidence in winning the straight up 1v1 or potential 1v2 against his lane opponent and the enemy jungle, or if it's him saying that the attention and snowball effect could be put to better use by another teammate, that could be a bit unclear. But one thing we know for sure is that the few times that we played together as an entire team with him, usually due to George being absent, have been great, and our duo adventures in the platinum layers of the League community are, to this day, unrivaled. So what if you're a little bit obsessed with your damn win rates? JC, you're the fucking best. Moving on to our last two members, the lovely Bulgarians, Legendary Hero and Tracer, Vicstar and Ronnie Senpai, Ronaldo and Vicky, Ron and Vicstar 123 HD. The awesome combination goes by many names, but one thing's for sure, they've been a great addition to the team. Starting with the little brother, otherwise known as Vicstar, Vicky is a very special person within the FG community. Being the youngest Faplord, he also has the most to learn. Vicky's notorious for some of his, let's call them, special plays. For example, back when the Alacrity enchantment, amongst others, was a thing, Vicky had a tendency to buy Boots of Swiftness with said enchantment on Janna, increasing her movement speed to stupid amounts, whilst rendering her utterly useless to the rest of the team. If I remember correctly, the first time he did this in a team setting, our reaction sounded something like this. Guys, check out Vicstar's items. Is that? Vicky, why did you buy Boots of Swiftness with Alacrity? Vicky answered with his usual lag. There's probably a Sonic meme somewhere in there, but I'll leave it be. Another trap card Vix like to play on us once in a while is the let's go farm Tobu bot when the rest of the team is grouping, Vicstar being the AD carry in these scenarios. Despite all the interesting trap cards Vicstar and his brother at times tend to activate in our ranked league games, we absolutely adore playing with him. Vicstar is always good for a meme or 10 or 100, he memes a lot. And he is also always more than ready to type that into the chat after a rather unfortunate play just unfolded. And he's always up for good fun. Vicstar has been a great addition to the team, and we love having him here. We are now down to the last man left uncharacterized. Well, I guess you can hardly call these segments characterizations, but whatever. The last man's Run. Known for his stank ass invades and incredible ultimates, Gragas, and stacking playstyle, Run is one of the most interesting on the team. Two of his greatest trap cards are known as the Invade and the Dice of Wolves, both ending with him being sent back to the fountain. The Invade card is especially good at making the screen grey, so good in fact that I'm quite sure we at one point started to forbid said Invade, without laner assistance at least. Obviously we couldn't do much about the fact that the plat player kept dying to wolves or wraiths in his first clear, but hey,
It's all fun and games until we lose and he's flaming. Talking about flaming, Ron is always good for a toxic remark either towards an unlucky teammate or undeserving opponent. At this point, it might seem like Ron would be a rather unlike character within the community, always inting and flaming or missing his Malphite/Trackers ultimates. But it's quite the opposite. Despite his, at least in our eyes, hilarious flaws, we love that inting sucker. It's always, and I mean always, fun to have him in our games. We might have to deal with the occasional insult, but I mean, my god, he's funny. And when all is said and done, Ron is an excellent addition to the team, whose fuel is basically memes, insult, and dangus plays. So, you know, he fits right in. I think that was about it for the quote-unquote characterization. I gotta be honest, it was a blast going through every member and trying to remember all the awesome moments we had. And honest to god, I tried to keep this video short, but that was just basically no go. And frankly, I could have gone on for hours on end with these characterizations. All in all, these only scratch the surface of the personalities within our tight-knit community. But it does give some sort of an idea for outsiders if they really want to understand even a little of what's going on inside Faplord Gaming. Tune in next time for a video about our active seasons and our achievements within those seasons. Anyway, that's all for me. Lord Rattenborg out. Peace.